one of the poorest counties in Georgia. According to the Athens-Clarke County government, 29.9% of residents in the county are experiencing poverty. Almost 30% of residents in our city cannot afford necessities. It doesn't help that the average cost of rent in Athens is around $1,500, while the median household income is around $39,710, and the cost of rent is increasing. My topic for today is poverty levels in Athens-Clarke County. This affects all of us. I'm looking to address this to my audience. We have all felt the impacts of inflation in the past several months. Inflation may be affecting our grocery prices, but it's also causing issues for the housing and rental market. Within the last year, we have experienced a 13.7% increase in rental prices, and the average price of a home has increased by 18.6%, and they're expected to continue rising. I grew up in Athens and I love this town. This place is my home and I've witnessed so many changes throughout the years of living here. When you first think of Athens, the University of Georgia may be the first thing that comes to mind, but Athens is so much more than that. The city is home to thousands of residents who've lived here their entire life and have now begun the struggle of wondering how they can continue to afford living. I believe my audience should listen to the speech to recognize that this is a true issue for citizens in Athens. Today we're going to be talking about what could possibly be done to help. I'm going to persuade my audience that the poverty levels in Athens-Clarke County have had an effect on the housing crisis. I have 3 topics to share with y'all today, such as how the current poverty levels have affected the housing crisis, secondly, how luxury housing has provided a factor into the housing crisis, and finally, how real estate investment companies have also affected the housing crisis. I'm now going to begin speaking more into these topics. Poverty levels have affected the housing crisis. In an article published by Athens Politics Nerd, it talks about how affordable housing in Athens is vanishing. From 2000 to 2015, 67% of new apartments in Athens were built strictly for students, and luxury apartments being on the rise during this time have also added insult to injury. Aside from that, they bring up an interesting topic, Airbnbs. They've brought a new dimension to the crisis. Many then affordable rentals have now been turned into, quote, unregulated hotels, unquote, according to this article. In a separate article published by the Red and Black, it takes a deeper dive into the poverty issues in Athens and how students have shaped the city. The University of Georgia is one of Athens' largest employers. However, the job market in Athens is very crowded, and many of these jobs aren't well paying. Individuals in the job market currently are students trying to get a job while finishing up their degrees in Athens, leaving less jobs for impoverished residents trying to get by. Quote, the University of Georgia's student market plays a significant role in making housing prices and rent unaffordable in Athens, end quote, according to the Clarke County Consolidated Plan. Socioeconomic statuses have provided a factor into these issues. Finding affordable housing has become nearly impossible for those impoverished, while the wealthy are able to afford these rentals. In real estate, there is an effect called filtering, meaning that while these rentals may not be affordable for lower income households now, in the future they may become more affordable. Luxury housing has also provided a factor into the housing crisis. If you drive around Athens, you will see several new apartment complexes being built at a rapid pace around us, from high-rises in downtown to modernized cottages off of College Station Road. These apartments aren't affordable to the average residents, and some are close to $3,000 a month just for rent. In an article published by Michelle Alloy for WABE, it spoke about the rise in luxury housing and how a vast majority of complexes built are marketed just for students. Clarke County Commissioner Melissa Lee has suggested a moratorium on luxury student housing. Quote, we've been kind of bending over backwards to accommodate developers without really considering or even asking what the desires of our actual community are, and quote, Lee says. At the very least, she says that she would like to see more size caps on these builds and more inclusionary housing, meaning some units set aside for those with less income. She worries that by the time this could be set into effect, luxury student housing could have already taken over Athens. And finally, we're going to talk about the rise in real estate investment companies and their effects on the housing crisis. I read an article published by the Red and Black that talks about the struggles Athenians have begun to face at the hands of large investors taking over as their landlords. Earlier this year, an investment firm took over several complexes in Athens and raised the rent exponentially. In this article, we heard from residents such as Juana Hewlin, a single mother of 3. The new property manager sent her an invoice stating that her lease was ending soon and she had 2 choices: sign a yearly lease of $1,595 monthly, or a monthly lease of $1,695 when she was originally paying just $825. At the time of this article, she was a student here at Athens Tech and had to begin missing her classes as she had to pick up an extra job at night to help cover the cost of rent. We also hear the story of another individual being affected by this. Barbara Daniel has lived in Athens for 22 years. This June, she received a letter like what Ms. Hewlin is facing. She was told that her lease wasn't being renewed, and the property manager said that this was a, quote, business decision, end quote. Ms. Daniel was told that the Section 8 housing vouchers she was using before were no longer accepted, and was told she had to be moved out by July 31st. Quote, "It felt like I was stabbed. I couldn't breathe," end quote. Both complexes were bought by Prosperity Capital Partners. Following this purchase, rent was raised and is risking the displacement of many families and individuals living in these complexes. By hearing these topics mentioned, I think we can all agree that this is an issue. As I said earlier, my goal for today was to persuade my audience that poverty levels in Athens, Clarke County have affected the housing crisis. I spoke about things that affected the housing crisis, such as luxury housing, real estate investment companies, and the poverty levels. As a final thought, I think we can see that there are many factors in the housing crisis. Do you think differently after hearing these issues today? I think as a collective power, there is more we can do to help stop the housing crisis.